right, thank you very much, April. But before we get into the Q&A section, let's again retake our poll kanina. No? So based on our answers kanina, most of us think that COVID vaccine will be important before markets recover. So let's take another poll there. So again, we asked the question, what do you think will drive the market to recover? Is it A, the lifting of the ECQ? 2, better than expected earnings? 3, more economic stimulus? 4, less new COVID cases? Or 3, a COVID-19 vaccine? All right, so let us know by voting your answers. And I think this is very much important in trying to set the environment in the event that we do get past this enhanced community quarantine period. So, sige. Right. A few minutes. Okay. Let's view the results. There's a slight increase in the answers for new COVID vaccine. It appears, April, that most of our customers really think that the vaccine is very much important for this. But I think we're still far from that, although the treatments are quite available, no? So,
Well,
okay,
yeah. But
go ahead.
kasi 'di ba, I guess one of the questions I'm sure somebody will ask you there, but paano na yan yung mga resilient sectors ang mahal? Pero yung let's say mga banks, properties, they're so cheap like anything. You'd have some trading at 3 times PE, 5 times PE. What's that, 'di ba? Parang ang mura naman. You know, I guess the problem is, I think those are the stocks you want to be in when ultimately the market shows signs of recovery. But while the earnings are not yet recovering, yan yung tinatawag namin na value traps. Kasi you will notice how some stocks, although they're cheap, they never go up. Value is hardly a reason why these stocks go up. They have to also convince people that earnings are on the way to recovery. And unfortunately, while the cases are, while there still is no vaccine, even if we lift the or reopen the economies, pangit pa rin, no? So I think that
right.
that really is the worry, which is why we're not really that keen on recommending those issues, not at this point anyway.
Okay, so I think we have some questions on your last slide, April. So you mentioned the picks of COL Financial. There are 2 questions regarding that. First is the fair value and the buy below, April. So if I'm trying to buy into the market right now or trying to buy in the next couple of weeks, first question is, which one do I follow? Is it fair value or buy below? And the second question being, what do you mean by buying in tranches or buying slowly? So
Okay. So yung buy below, actually, yung fair value, that's what we think is the fair value of the stock, or yung kaya namin panindigan na we think it's this price. Like if you're buying a property, 'di ba? Sabi mo, tingin ko tong unit na to parang hanggang 5 million lang to. So, of course, if you want to make money, you won't buy it at 5 million. You will buy it at a cheaper price. And that's what the buy below is all about.
Okay,
You want to have that certain margin of error. And what's the second question again?
What do you mean by buying slowly? This is one of the questions here.
Yes.
And in what intervals do you buy
Mm-mm.
slowly? Right?
Yeah. Because our problem is, we know that it's a great opportunity for long-term investors. We will make money over the long term kasi sobrang mura ng stocks. The problem is, when you look at the trend is against us, and prices continue to go down. Ngayon, if you buy all at once, then there's a risk that prices will continue to go down, and then you will become frustrated and end up being the seller at the bottom, or sell when it rebounds the first time. Eh di sayang lang, nagpaipit ka tagal-tagal tapos wala rin na
Oo nga.
pala, 'di ba? Which is why we're recommending doing it slowly. Now, maybe the interval can be monthly for the next 6 months. As I've
Mm-hmm.
said previously, if I think what is a good strategy is to actually monitor what we say fundamentally, and also to monitor what Juanes says technically, because he
Mm-hmm.
will share already when the technical signals are actually starting to look good. Then if you still have some money left over that you weren't able to deploy during, say, your 6 month investment time frame, at least
Mm-hmm.
yun na, ma-FOMO ka na. Pwede mo nang i-deploy
Oh,
lahat when there are
okay.
signs that this market is turning around, both fundamentally and technically. So that's
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
my advice to
Okay.
investors when I say buy slowly. That's what I mean.
Mm. Just to clarify, April, I think we have, I think, around four customers asking this already. By long term, what do you mean, madam?
Long term, maybe sabihin natin, if we were to use the Spanish flu as
Mm-hmm.
an indicator, that took around 2 years to be resolved, 'di ba? So siguro
Mm-hmm.
mga 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yeah, I guess 2 years is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oo,
Mm-hmm.
two to
Mm-hmm.
three years,
Okay.
ganyan. Mm.
All right. Sige. One question from our customers here is that I think he's also like us, always in Facebook during this time kasi wala ka naman
Mm.
makitang iba. And he noticed that a lot of insurance companies are using the market conditions as a marketing tool, as telling people that it's time to invest. Now, what's your
Mm.
comment on this?
It's true naman talaga eh, 'di ba? It really is a good
Mhm.
time to
Okay.
invest because stocks are cheap. But then that
Mhm.
said, kaya nga we always tell you to have a long-term mindset. Mamaya, nag-invest kayo, isip nyo, kikita kayo agad bukas din or
Mhm.
next
Mhm.
month. That's not true. That's
Okay.
why,
Doesn't work that
'di ba?
way. Mhm.
Oo. Kaya nga most of the people who invest in the stock market lose money is because 'di
Mhm.
ba na-excite ka sa simula? Kaya ang hirap bumili during bear markets because all the news is so negative, prices keep on going
Yeah.
down.
Mhm.
Matatakot ka talaga eh. So you have to, be logical, convince yourself that things will be better, people will go out again. Yun na nga, 100 years ago, there was the Spanish flu, but then
Mhm.
none of us remember it, or,
Mhm.
we don't even talk about it. Like, you don't see people wearing masks, but if you go to a Google search and look for images of the Spanish flu, you'd think that, it's today, exactly the
Mhm.
same.
Mhm. Mhm. If you just put color in the pictures, no,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
looks the
oo.
same. And the
Nakamask din
quarantine
sila
also is
lahat.
very similar.
Oo. And even the
That's right.
hospitals were also overwhelmed. But you see, after a hundred
Yeah.
years, you have countries not even improving their
Remember.
medical infrastructure because
Mhm.
we take things for granted. But again, it
Mhm.
took place. It happened again.
All right. Another question, April. I think may mga news articles that came out about STI and the company being in trouble. And this customer is asking, are we expecting other companies as well to be in danger or of going bankrupt given
Um,
these
the-
conditions?
yeah, there will be for sure. Yun na nga. Even if depende nga yan kung marami kang utang. Because
Mm-hmm.
of course, there is no such thing as being forgiven of paying your debts. It's a leverage
Mm-hmm.
because the expense is the same no matter what. You can lay off
Yeah.
employees or close stores so they don't have to pay rent, but the debt you still have to pay
Mm-hmm.
regardless
Mm-hmm.
of what revenues you get. So definitely there is a risk, but um, looking at the listed companies, at least for those that we cover, um, thankfully, I don't think any of them are highly leveraged at this stage to the point that I'd
Mm-hmm.
be worried, or it being similar to, say, the Asian financial crisis, because that was difficult in the sense that people at during that time borrowed in US dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And during the start of the crisis, the exchange rate was 26 and it peaked at around 56. So you borrow US dollars at 26 because interest rates in the Philippines before double digit eh. So they borrow
Mm-hmm.
US dollars single digit, 26, naging 56. So yung debt obligation mo more than doubled. Aside
Oh.
from that, what was bad was they borrowed in US dollar to speculate on land. properties that aren't
Mhm.
even generating any income. So bumaba pa yung price.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. Mhm.
definitely a lot of them became bankrupt, or
Mhm.
they couldn't pay their debts because
Mhm.
of that speculation. But nowadays it's not the same eh. Parang we've learned our lesson from the Asian financial crisis.
Mhm. Now that you mentioned property, April, there are a few customers here asking, so if the property market is has a will be affected negatively by everything that's happening, can we expect also bargains to happen in actual property?
Well, I do hope
What
so.
do you think?
There is a possibility. There is a possibility. Yun nga, ang problem lang is not as many people
Hmm.
are as highly leveraged today as they were
Oh,
before. Yun
that's
lang
right.
naman. But that said, maybe you can get some bargains. Um
Hmm.
Yun nga, baka pa-secret lang, hindi. I
Ah,
think
oh, they're not
ito na
publishing
lang.
it kasi.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think in the secondary market and maybe in Roland mas may chance. Pero asa ka yung developers will sell at a discount. They will never do
Yeah.
that. Because I
Okay.
think for them, they have tools to make sure that the price stays elevated because they
Hmm.
can extend the payment term, make it super affordable so that you will continue paying. Then they will just
Yeah.
say, okay, we will delay the turnover by another year, but in exchange of that we'll make it super affordable so you don't feel like you've been paying for it, ganyan. And then
Hmm.
they won't launch any new project, so parang kung gusto mo ng bago, ipit ka, no choice, you have to buy their project, yung mga ganon.
Hmm.
There are ways they can continue to make it lucrative for people. And secondly, they cannot cut the prices, or else those that bought before are gonna get so mad at them that they're never gonna buy their projects anymore. They won't be repeat customers. And what if yung si buyer before mag-default na lang, sabihin, ay, ayoko na lang, nagbaba ka ng price eh. Bibili
Hmm.
na lang
Hmm.
ako ng
That's right.
bago, 'di ba? So, I
Oo
mean,
nga.
I don't think the developers will do that. They didn't do that during the global financial crisis. What they do is they just give better payment terms to make it
Hmm.
attractive for people to buy.
Okay. You've mentioned a while ago, April, that that this rally that we're seeing right now is not supported by foreign money. And this was one customer is asking, why are they selling? Why are they moving out of emerging
Well,
markets like the
yeah,
Philippines?
I think in general emerging markets ayaw nila kasi I mean, even the currencies, no, the Philippine peso is very strong, but other emerging market currencies are very weak. Because first of all, I think a lot of emerging market economies are dependent on exports,
Hmm.
dependent on commodities. So of course,
Hmm.
those drivers will be weak this time around. They can't depend on
Yeah.
that. So medyo umiwas sila. And thirdly, they're worried about um, US dollar debts, US dollar obligations. Um, some countries actually have a lot of dollar obligations, and right now the US dollar is very strong relative to other currencies. So there, I think there is a worry that emerging markets cannot pay off these dollar debts. And
Hmm.
even
Hmm.
kasi we have to realize that the US dollar is a world reserve currency, and it's being used
Hmm.
to price a lot of items being imported and exported, and there is quote unquote a shortage of US dollars in conditions such as these. That's why
Hmm.
during times of crisis, emerging market currencies are always vulnerable to a depreciation.
Okay. Ito, another question, April, on the sectoral map you've shown kanina. There's one customer asking, why are the bank sectors particularly weak at this time? Meaning, I think this
Mm,
customer is asking about the dynamics of provisioning. Ano ba yun? Kasi
yes,
most of the
yes.
earnings are being hit by it, no?
Oo, oo. So, at this point kasi, 'di ba ang sabi ng Bayanihan Act, bawal mag or Okay, you give your customers time to repay. Okay, to repay their debts, to repay interest. So the banks, if you look at the earnings, oh, ang lakas naman ng earnings, wala naman tayong problema dito because
Mm.
they cannot collect yet. But the
Mhm.
moment the ECQ is lifted and things are back to normal and people start or the banks start to collect, then that's the only time they will know kung sino ba talagang may kaya magbayad at hindi. So they're
Mhm.
already bracing for the possibility. You have people who will be losing their jobs, companies who will have much less business. So the banks are already anticipating that some of these borrowers cannot pay their debts, and
Mhm.
because of that, they're setting aside provisions.
Mhm.
BPI, I think, di ba, nagsabi na nga, they're anticipating possibly a doubling of the NPLs.
Oh.
So the banks are just being cautious,
Mhm.
preemptive. Nagsiset
Mhm.
aside na sila ng provisions because they know that kung mawawalan ng trabaho ang tao and business will be difficult for a lot of like the restaurants and all of that,
Mhm.
probably you will see some defaults for those that have debts.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, so provisions are carved out of profits ba or ano or their
Oo,
cash levels? Profits, no?
yes.
All right.
Profits yan, oo.
Profits, nako. Hirap pala. Kaya pala.
Mm,
Another question, Madam, is for a fan of the index funds. Do we still
mm.
recommend to stick with an index fund?
For me, okay pa naman. For a diversified portfolio, for long-term investment, okay pa naman. I think, yun. Pero let's say to be super concentrated on SM Prime, I'm just a little bit worried right now because they are still going or still expensive because they're part of or the largest cap index.
Mhm. Mhm.
Maybe if you were to buy individual issues, I think siguro medyo avoid muna SM Prime because they're expensive. I'm not saying they're not gonna survive this crisis. I think they'll be fine. They can survive. The
Mhm.
problem is I just don't like that the price is still up there and they're actually doing better than a lot of companies when in fact they're gonna be affected because SM
Yes.
Prime, for example, is heavily in malls. And yesterday we were talking about it that at least the other property companies have a lot of offices. CSM
Mhm.
Prime,
Mhm.
yes, they do have offices, but given the size of their malls, these offices pale in comparison, 'di
Mhm.
ba?
Mhm.
So tatamaan sila doon and their malls pa naman are 'di ba yung mga mega malls, they have the mga movie houses, convention centers, skating
Skating
rinks.
rink.
Yeah, so those
Mm.
are activities which will most likely not be allowed even with the new normal, no, lifting of
Yes.
ECQs. So matatamaan sila dyan. And the SM naman, investments, they have the retail portion, which would include mga department stores and what, which malamang tatamaan ng mga
Mhm.
spending cutbacks.
Ito, ma'am, we have, I think, three questions with regard to the US market because it would seem like the US market has reversed its downward movement already. And given what's happening, meaning pataas pa lang din yung cases nila, why do you think this is happening, at least in the
Oh
US?
yeah, that's in part also because the QE forever, di ba?
Okay,
Yung
okay.
QE infinity ni Fed.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the peso is not a reserve currency. That's why kung gawin ng BSP yan, bebentahan lang tayo ng foreigners. 'Di ba? Ang
Oh, that's
US, 'di
right.
ba? They can always talk about interest rates falling, therefore the Fed printing a lot of money and US market can go up. And aside from that, they have a lot of tech stocks that are benefiting like your Amazons and say
Mm-hmm.
Google and all the other tech issues that are benefiting. Sa Philippines naman wala tayong ganun. So, 'di ba?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
The most we have is PLDT and Globe, 'di ba? But that said, yung weight nila sa index mababa. They're
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
as heavy as SM Prime.
Mm. Eto, ma'am, I think we have four customers asking this question. If the common stocks are having trouble in terms of sustaining the rally or expected to have trouble, what do you think about investing in preferred shares?
Preferred shares.
Oh,
Hmm. Actually,
generally, yeah.
mukhang I think first of all, you buy preferred shares of companies that have good balance sheet para tuloy-tuloy
Okay.
pa rin ang pagbayad ng preferred dividends. Actually, if you think
Mm-hmm.
about it in the short term, baka nga preferred stocks might perform better because if interest rates keep on going down, then I think uh, the values of the prefs will appreciate more because there will be a search for yields, and these preferred
Yes.
stocks actually provide higher yields. But just make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you're buying preferred shares of companies that have solid balance sheet para tuloy-tuloy ang pagbayad ng preferred cash dividends.
Mm-hmm. Okay, ma'am. Ito, we have a very active question field right now. So another question is, do you think, madam, that REITs will be pushing through as planned this year, given COVID-19?
Ayala Land said that they will continue to
Okay.
sell the REITs. That's what they said. I think though that they're on a wait and see attitude. Kasi right now, ang balita namin, when you talk to the listed companies, kasi the Ayala REITs will be selling offices eh. They're not gonna sell the malls. So the offices, especially the BPOs, mukhang tuloy-tuloy. They're not gonna pull
Mm-hmm.
out. They're still paying rents right now. So if that continues to be the case after ECQ is lifted, give it maybe 3 to 6 months and then resilient pa rin yun, eh kung makakuha ng yield yung mga tao, tapos sabihin natin bumaba ang interest rate, bibili pa rin ng tao ng REIT. So I think in light of that, the Ayala Land may continue with the REITs, but they might have a wait and see attitude first if things are still okay, so that they can sell the REITs at a good price.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for that. I'm still looking for this next question. Naisip ko kanina. Ito, madam, one question from a customer. Given that the prices are low or expected to be low, will it be wise to borrow to invest in the stock
Nak,
market?
wag na wag. No, that's
Okay.
one of the things we actually advise
Say, no,
clients
right.
during markets is not to
Mhm,
borrow money. Kasi nga, um, 'di ba, earlier on we said 2 years. But of course,
mhm,
hindi naman natin alam kung talagang 2 years. Eh paano kung tumagal tapos ang timing mo dun sa
mhm,
computation mo, 2 years lang ang
mhm,
utangin mo. Tapos yun nga, bumaba yung market at ever. It's kind of dangerous actually. Kasi if you have a long-term mindset and you don't know when the markets will recover, etc., you will be using money that you own, the money that you can keep for a long term, yung kaya mong magpaipit. Eh,
mhm,
of
mhm.
course, if it's borrowed money, hindi mo kaya magpaipit. And
No,
when the
ipit.
banks
Mhm,
tell you, or when you borrowed money, whoever you borrowed from will tell you, hey, pay me, 'di ba?
mhm,
You will be at risk na baka ikaw pang magbenta sa baba. 'Di ba?
mhm.
And yun na nga, 'di ba, we
Oo nga.
also talked about the risk of a margin call. Kasi for brokers, for example, if we provide margin, um, your downside is only limited kasi may certain collateral requirements yan eh. Eh,
Mhm,
what if it
mhm,
still goes down first before it goes up? You're at risk of suffering from a margin call, and then after na margin call ka, biglang tataas yung stock. Ang sakit naman nun, di
mhm.
ba? So, wag kayong utang ng pera. It's not the time. Now is not the right time.
Okay, to borrow to invest. But there are
Mm-mm.
some, since we've talked about interest rates, April,
Mm-mm.
some are asking kung bababa yan, is it a good time to get a personal loan to buy stuff or buy a house or not for stock
Naku.
investing? Do you think it's time to, I think, at least lock their interest rates? No, if interest rates do come down, do you think it's a wise idea?
Actually, I'm not really an expert on interest rates, but I was really reflecting
Oh,
on that eh.
yeah.
Kasi kung hihina yung borrowing ng bank, tapos si BSP cut ng triple R, di
Mm,
malamang
that's
bababa
right.
yung rate, di ba? Because there will
Buying
be
rate,
more
yeah.
money available. The problem is, do banks have the appetite to lend? Baka
Okay.
sabihin nila consumer loans ay risky yan. So taasan natin yung rate niyan or pahirapan ka. Let's say you buy a property, ang sasabihin nila, sige, imbis na loan to collateral value, 80% pautang na namin. So
Mm-hmm.
sabihin nila, ay loan 50% lang pwede. 'Di ba? Kasi
Mm-hmm.
tapos yung collateral pagka nag-appraise sila yung collateral mo, 80% of
Mhm.
market value lang. So in other words, 40% lang mautang mo. They're gonna be, they might be stricter at this point. I don't know what they'll do, but those are some things that they could do to make it difficult for you to borrow. They might ask for a lot of requirements, or they might not approve your loan, 'di ba? Sabihin, ay hindi, risky yan, baka mawalan ng trabaho, etc. Ganon. Yung mga ganon.
Mhm. All right. All right, that's all the time we have for now. Thank you very much, April, for your presentation
Yeah,
and
thank you.
answering some of our customers' questions. For those of you who unfortunately weren't able to answer those questions, we'll try to answer them and send you an email for this. Okay, so just before we end, I'd like to talk about how to reach us. In the next slide, you will see the Facebook channels for Call Financial and Call Premium. When the recorded version of this webinar is out, you can certainly find them there. And if you are looking for the past editions of this webinar series, you can also look for them in the YouTube channels of Call Financial and Call Premium. And of course, I want to take this time also to talk about the exclusive group for Call Premium customers, which is Call Premium Official. To go there, you can just check out your Facebook, search for Call Premium Official, or type the URL that we show in the screen below. In that group, you will get a first crack on some of our guidance content. We also have some announcements there, and when we do publish this online webinar there, you can continue asking your questions and we'll be there to answer them for you. All right. So with that, again, thank you very much, April. Thank you very much, everyone. If you have any more questions or comments or suggestions how we can make this better for you, you can contact us and contact your CEM by accessing the Need Help button in the upper right corner of your COL account. And with that, thank you very much and have a great day ahead.